Today is our open Q&A. Inshallah, every 2-3 weeks I try to have an open Q&A. And alhamdulillah, we got 85 questions and within 5 hours of spreading the email. From now on, I'm going to try to collect questions because it is easier rather than just raising a hand, because you can go over the questions and then choose the ones that are more relevant to the community. So I've tried to divide this into multiple categories, and we'll try our best to do rapid fire, which means we're trying to answer as many questions as we can in the shortest possible period of time, so we're not going to go into a lot of detail. So the first question, the first series of questions is about Palestine and Gaza. So my question is regarding the current Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Can you please give a lecture, maybe not tonight, but at another time, explaining how we answer people who say that the land of Palestine belongs to the Jewish people? Can you address the common arguments made by the settlers, by the Zionists, by influencers, that in their view, Israel or Palestine belongs to the Jews because of the history and because of the Bible? And a lot of us are struggling how to respond when we hear these types of questions. So can you give us digestible rebuttals in order to help our brothers and sisters in Palestine? Very good question. I've already answered this in multiple lectures. So I urge you to listen to a number of khutbahs I've given. 3 years ago, I gave a talk here about 5 questions about Zionism. So listen to that talk as well. When I used to live in Memphis, I gave a lecture about the creation of the modern Muslim world, where I went over the history of the creation of Palestine and how was it created. These are lectures, not just from me, from everybody, that you need to listen to. You must educate yourselves, O Muslims, because there's so many common misconceptions. Palestine has gone over so many hands in the last 4,000 years. For around 200-300 years, it belonged to the children of Israel of the Bible. Before them were others, after them were others. To claim that just because 3,000 years ago, a group of people used to live in that land, and therefore a modern group that has some connection to them should then go over and expel the people. This is not an argument that anybody makes. In fact, if we were to start this argument, the native indigenous Indians of this country, the Native Americans of this country have infinitely more right to just walk into your house. They literally have the right to walk into your house, knock on your door, say, hey, you are standing on this and this land, my ancestors used to live here, and they will kick you out. Who's going to allow this? Nobody allows this. They have more right because it's only been 200 years. Whereas this group, it's been 3,000 years. So what if perhaps some of their ancestors ruled over some of these portions? There is no logical argument to make in this regard. And if you look at the common misconceptions of how Israel was formed, the misconception is it was an empty land and European settlers came and settled and the Arabs were too greedy to give them the empty land. No. There was fighting, there was expulsion, there were massacres that took place. More than 1.5 million people were physically expelled. That's why Gaza exists. Where did the people in Gaza come from? They were expelled from what is now the land of Israel. There were people living in Palestine and they were physically expelled. And so even when they were expelled, they were then surrounded and then Gaza took place. So bottom line, I have given these lectures. I will continue to give these lectures and also read multiple books out there, and there's also a very good documentary called Palestine 101. Is that the name? Forgot the name. Palestine 101. Do you remember what it is? It's a very good documentary on YouTube. You find it, and it's also the documentary that won the award 5 years ago. 5 Broken Cameras. You can watch that one as well, 5 Broken Cameras. It's another good documentary. So these are multiple documentaries you can watch. And I encourage all of you to study, to read, so that inshallah ta'ala you'll be able to respond to the arguments made by those people who have misconceptions. Next question. Should we as American Muslims collectively protest at the embassies of Arab governments here in America? Very sensitive question. But with me, all questions are allowed, no problem. I don't censor the questions. And should we consider, this is sensitive, guys listen to me, rethinking going for Hajj and Umrah? Let me put it this way. Should we go for Hajj and Umrah right now, thinking that boycotting might help the Muslims of Gaza? So the first question about protesting in governments. I'm not a political analyst. The khutbah I gave, I literally said, my job is awareness and incentivize. Let the media strategists, let the political analysts tell us what is the most effective mechanism so that, inshallah ta'ala, we can open up a corridor of at least humanitarian aid. That's what we want. How that is to be achieved, I am not an expert. And I'm very careful about staying in my lane. I speak about what I know and I delegate to those that are more knowledgeable in their fields. How do we convince our Muslim governments? And I am not a political analyst, but I would think if 3, 4, 5 of these governments came together and they publicly said, listen, people are starving, we are sending aid. UN come and examine, there's no weapons, there's no guns, it's baby food. The world come, there's video footage here, we're sending water, flour, biscuits, we're sending items of eating and drinking. And we're going to start the caravan here, let all the cameras come. There should be no two opinions that inshallah ta'ala this is a PR strategy that will ensure that the humanitarian aid will come. When you have 3, 4, 5 governments come together, Muslim governments come together, then I hope inshallah we can get humanitarian aid. How do we get pressure on those governments? I'm not the person to ask. More than happy to help. Let the experts come, let those who have strategy come, and I will use my platform to advertise their tactics. So I do not know whether we should protest in front of the embassies or not. I don't know will that be effective or not. I would think diplomatic channels typically has more effect, but I'm leaving this to the experts. I keep on saying, this is, wallahi, we feel so helpless, wallahi, brothers. We are individuals, we're not governments. What can we do? We don't have the power the governments do. We don't have the military. We don't have the diplomatic clout. We don't have the channels. I feel so helpless. What can we do? I don't know. But collectively, we have what they do not have. Number one, we have numbers. Without a doubt, the ummah is on the side of Gaza. Without a doubt, tens of millions, no wallahi, hundreds of millions of people will want to do something. We have numbers. So if we can mobilize those numbers, and tap into that energy, then of course we have the truth on our side. We have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on our side. History will be on our side. So without a doubt, we have so much power. But what do we do? Don't ask me. I am not the political analyst. I will do what I can do to raise awareness. And I would think the most effective long-term strategy would be to get the regional powers that are Muslim involved to broker a deal, even if they do so for PR. Wallahi, we don't care about your intention. Leave it between you and Allah. We just solve the problem. Just bring some food to the starving babies. Even if you do it for PR, that's between you and Allah. Just solve the problem. So maybe if we were to collectively say, we will cheer you, we will give you medals, just do this. Maybe they might do it. We don't know. Allahu A'lam. But you tell us the strategy. And as for the Hajj and Umrah, I have been very consistent. Do not mix, two rights don't make a wrong. Do not mix our ibadat and what is wajib and what is a ritual with a political tactic. Whatever is happening, Hajj and Umrah is a blessing, and Mecca will remain sacred, and visiting Medina is one of the greatest spiritual upliftments. So whatever is happening in the world, there is no sense in you not going to Mecca and Medina. It's no sense whatsoever. You individually will not affect the ummah in a positive manner by not going and praying in Mecca and Medina. I don't believe in this tactic. So in this tactic, I will say religiously, it does not make any sense. Two wrongs don't make a right. This is something that is separate and independent. Whatever is happening there politically, Mecca and Medina remain blessed and holy. And our Prophet ﷺ wanted to go do tawaf and do the umrah even when Mecca was under Qurayshi control, when the Quraysh were waging war against the Muslims. And he didn't think, oh, but we're going to a land that is fighting Islam. It's not that bad that we're making that qiyas. But I'm just saying, he didn't say, oh, the Quraysh are waging war. We've had Badr, we've had Uhud, we've had Khandaq. He didn't say any of this. Mecca remains Mecca. And when you go to Mecca, you will become more empowered. Your sins are going to be forgiven. You will feel motivated for the ummah. So no, when it comes to boycotting Mecca and Medina, there is never a boycott. You should always go whenever you can. Now it's another thing. If you say, I've been to Hajj and Umrah, should I spend money more on a nafil Umrah than on Gaza? That is a separate question. I'm not talking about that. Somebody is asking, is it judicious and wise to boycott and use that boycott as a political message? And I say that no, that you involve religion. Mecca remains Mecca, Hajj and Umrah remains Hajj and Umrah, and what is happening politically is independent of Mecca and Medina. So no. As for which of the two you should do, it depends on case-by-case basis. It is authentically narrated, one of the great scholars, I believe it is Sufyan ibn Ibrahim, I'm not sure. One of the great scholars, he was planning to go for Nafil Hajj, and he had gathered all the money. And as he was walking outside, he saw a very, deprived, poor lady who was starving, whatnot. And he said, you know what? This lady needs more help than my third, fourth, fifth Hajj. So he gave the lady that money, and then he came back. And in his mind, he did something better for the sake of Islam. This individual, some people, they really feel they need cleansing. Their hearts are hard. They've done sins. And they need to go to Mecca for kafara. So there is no hukum am. There's no general ruling for the entirety of mankind. If you feel that going for a secondary, third or fourth Hajj and Umrah is good for you, you need it, no doubt you should go. And if you feel, hey look, I don't need to go and the people here need the money more, this is also very good. But that's an individual level, and that has nothing to do with the boycott. It's just a matter of where that money will be the most beneficial, and that's a case-by-case basis. This is a very difficult question, brothers and sisters. I'm asking it as the brother sent it. The brother is saying that I have seen online that some Muslims in Gaza are making dua against the ummah. How do we react to this? And to make sure that we are not those for whom the supplication is being made against. SubhanAllah, is a very painful question. Very painful question. Muslims in Gaza, sometimes they are saying, oh Ummah, I will call you to Allah, I will call you to account. May Allah protect us. What would you say? I don't blame them. Wallahi, I don't blame them. What would you say? The world seems to have abandoned you. However, their dua, it will apply without a doubt upon those who had the capacity to do something and they did nothing. Without a doubt. They will apply to those who had the power, who had the wherewithal and the means to do something and they didn't do something. As for me and you, what can we do? What can we do? All that we can do is very meager, and in that meager attempts, this is our salvation. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. And O Muslims, our religion is based upon rulings, not emotion. Our Prophet ﷺ lived in Mecca when the Sahaba were tortured to death in front of his eyes. Bilal was being dragged in the streets, ahadun ahad. Yasir and Sumayya were shuhada in front of his eyes. They were tortured to death. They were tortured to death in front of his eyes. How do you think he, ﷺ, felt? Yet all he could do was to say, Sabran ala Yasir fa inna mu'idukum al-jannah. That was not the time and place to engage in anything more than that, or else it would have gone bad on the entire Muslim community. So we have to learn from the seerah. It's not my right to proclaim a physical intervention, to proclaim a struggle for the sake of Allah. It's not the right of any scholar to do so. But is struggling for the sake of Allah a communal fard? Without a doubt it is. But who has the right to declare it? People that have clout, authorities, diplomatic clout, armies, those are the people that must declare. And as soon as they declare, inshallah, at that stage, every single scholar should say, Yalla, Bismillah, they have declared. But you cannot expect average people to do this. It's going to cause chaos in our communities, in where we live. And it's not going to bring benefit for the people of Gaza. So in my analysis, and again, this is opinion basically of the default of the ummah, if you look at it, us people who are preachers and teachers, all we can do is raise awareness and try to put pressure on our governments, Muslim and non-Muslim. We're doing something. Even today I had a phone conversation trying to do something within our own government as well. The tide is changing. Many people within our own government, the American government, they're changing in their perception of the situation. So yes, do what you can. But in the end, if you are trying, the dua of the madhloom will only stick to the zalim. The dua of the madhloom, it will go on the zalim. If you are not the zalim, and if you are not responsible, that dua will not fall on you. So yes, it's painful. And I have no words to describe that pain. And they are fully excused for their frustration. But at the same time, understand, it is a valid dua. But if you are trying whatever you're able to do, it will not fall on you. Now, if you are somebody who had the power, the clout, and you didn't do, then fear Allah. Because wallahi, on the day of judgment, the dua of that mother will definitely be attached to you. And all of your armies and your strength will not be able to help you on that day. So if you have that power, the dua of the mothers of Gaza on that day will be something you will not have any defense against. And all the power you had, and all the izzah the people gave you, and all the armies that you used to control will be of no benefit. And that dua will definitely be something you have to answer to. We ask Allah's afiyah in that regard. Now we move on to our next genre of questions, and that is, this is a specific genre of media. Regarding the recent social media attacks on Epic, which resulted in serious impact to our masjid and our services, could this impact have been prevented if we, the Muslim community, had significant presence online, if we had active, keyboard social media engagers, tactical influencers? What is your view on community presence and activism on social media? And should we give more attention and active participation on this in these mediums? So without a doubt, if you look at what happened with our entire debacle at Epic, the controversy began online. And the millions of views that took place, and all of the fear-mongering, and all of the hatred, it did not start except online. Social media, Twitter, Instagram, the far right began jumping and fomenting, and they began tagging the politicians and the governor until finally they had to get involved. And so much misinformation, snippets and clips, wrong things about the Quran, about Sharia, about our intentions, about me and yours truly. 27 video clips and tweets were specifically about yours truly, right? Generic khutbah, wallahi, may Allah protect. I give a generic khutbah. Allah will protect His religion. Okay, yes, He will. Look, they take that out. He is saying Islam is going to destroy America. I never said anything like that, This religion is going to go from east to west as the Prophet predicted. Look, supremacy. They want to come and they want to do this. Like they take a generic clip and they make an entire story out of it, right? SubhanAllah. If I say something, we follow the Sharia of Allah. Look, he's not an American. He's not going to follow the Constitution. We're following and obeying the laws of the land, and we're following the Sharia in our lives. No problem. But again, that's what happens when fear-mongering. You take tweets and clips. What should we have done? This person that is behind these tweets, one person. Can you believe? One person. Zionist, well-known, and not a single one amongst us was able to effectively lobby and campaign her misinformation. And this lady, complete through and through, Jewish background, Zionist, her own story is it's so easy to refute her. Her own father, her own brother publicly said she's unhinged, she had nothing to do with us. Her own family dissociated. Her own brother publicly said that we have nothing to do with her. She left her husband. She's dating a murderer, convicted murderer. She's living next to a jail. I mean, the story is crazy. Nobody even knows. Not one person managed to find the factual reality. Funding is coming from India. This is some white lady in upstate, America, and funding from India because the BJP wants to tarnish the image of Islam. Not one person is able to effectively put together and say, hey guys, people in Texas, why are you listening to Indian-funded propaganda coming through New York and New Jersey? Why? We didn't have a single person. This person has the funds to hire 2-3 people, that's it. Full time, all they do, and I have no doubt even this will be done, what I'm doing now, this clip, all they do, sometimes I was shocked. I give a khutbah Friday at 2 p.m. and by 8 p.m. the propaganda has begun from the same khutbah. 5 hours. They take the clip, make an entire story, create a counter-narrative, say, look what this cleric said, this and that. And I said on that day, I said, we are Americans, we're not going to be living as second-class citizens. Yahi, this is patriotic. I'm saying we're American. We want to be the same rights. And she comes and says, look, he's demanding this and he's doing that. And the whole propaganda begins. Without a doubt, what we saw in this entire debacle is that our community is still very disconnected from effective campaigning and lobbying, right? And then to target the politicians, to bring the governor and the local, the state and the Congress of the city involved. And they know exactly who it is, and funding them, giving them campaigns. If you're going to ban, Epic and whatnot, we'll pay you. And we are so disconnected from politics, from lobbying, from social media, that when we finally got access to the Congress lady that is actually our Congress lady of this district, our district, we finally got access to her. We had a meeting with her. I sat down with her, right? Explained everything, showed her everything, showed her the tweets from our own governor, our own politicians. And she was from the other party, the Democratic Party, and she was very incensed. And the same day, she tweeted to the governor directly, we do not tolerate bigotry and Islamophobia in this country. You should not be targeting a minority in this manner. The same day she tweeted, right? And as soon as she tweeted, backlash from within our own community begins. Shaykh, can you stand next to a non-hijabi lady in a picture? Wallahi, go look it up. You think I'm making it up? So my point is, we are disconnected from reality. I have to battle so many different battles at the same time. This and that, and we are still, how do you expect me to save our masjid and community? Except by going to our politician. And she tweeted a picture with me, saying this is the Imam of the Masjid, we don't want Islamophobia. She's defending Epic. And one other girl said, is it okay to take a picture next to a non-hijabi lady? Wallahi, I wanted to say to the brother, which corporation do you work in that, mashallah, all niqab and hijab? Which corporation do you work in that, mashallah, full segregation? Which world are you living in, right? But yes, we are disconnected from reality. And unless and until, why do you think other groups have that clout and power? Why do you think this country is so pro-Israel? Primarily, it is AIPAC money. We know this. Even Republicans are now pointing this out. Republicans are pointing this out. There's something called AIPAC Tracker. They're tracking who's giving how much money to AIPAC. They're pointing this out. We are not doing this. Why? Because again, we're disconnected from this. So without a doubt, I think there's a lot we can do. And yes, one of the things we can do, social media. This entity, this group, this lady, we now know she has hired full-time staff in India to find these types of tweets and then make big thing about them. She has bots. You know what bots are? Fake accounts. She has bots, fake accounts. She purchases them. And when she puts out a tweet, fake likes, because there's an algorithm. The more likes, the more it's going to spread. So tens of thousands of fake likes. From where? India, of all places. Because again, the BJP is financing this. We don't even have a single, forget fake bot, we don't even have the real community, getting involved in this regard. We are so disconnected. We have a lot of battles to fight. But inshallah, I'm optimistic. Bit by bit, we're going to be able to do that, inshallah ta'ala. So yes, this is one of the things we need to do. Next question, just genre of questions. How to deal with OCD religiously? A person is having doubts in the faith, waswasa, constantly struggling. I'm constantly saying my shahada over and over again. Ideas are coming that are blasphemous, kufri, whatnot. And I'm really worried, and my family is worried for my sake. So I'm answering this question. I chose this question because it's actually a very common question, unfortunately. It's a very common question. Spiritual OCD. Thoughts that are very dangerous, and the person keeps on thinking that this is kufr, I'm leaving Islam, whatnot. So this is a very difficult question to summarize. First and foremost, understand what is waswasa. Understand it, study it. This is waswasa. Shaitan putting doubts in your heart. Therefore, one of the cures, not the only one of the cures must be spiritual. Increase your dhikr, increase your Quran. But it's not the only thing you need to do. Other things also you need to do. Of them is, you need to learn. I don't believe in distraction, because distraction doesn't get rid of the waswasa. You need to learn to live with ideas not impacting your actions. You need to come to a place where the idea might be in your head, it's not changing your action. If you think, I haven't done wudu properly, that's what you think. If you have done the proper washing, khalas, do not repeat it again. If you think, astaghfirullah, I thought about that, I'm a kafir, don't act upon it and say the kalima again. No, do not act upon thoughts that are waswasa. You need to learn to live with them. Also, you battle waswasa with yaqeen. Yaqeen. What is yaqeen? Allah is Ghafoor. Allah is Rahim. Allah will not punish me for a thought. This is yaqeen. This is yaqeen. And waswasa is dhanni, shak. So you battle dhann with yaqeen. and you turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you keep on raising the bar of tolerance of ideas without it impacting your actions. So this is in a nutshell, and I've given a longer lecture about OCD. Next question, we're doing theological questions now. So some of my family members say, Madad ya Rasulallah, or they say help from the Abdul Qadir al-Jilani or Hassani or whatnot. What is your verdict on this? I have said multiple times, this is not something we should do. It is not a part of our tradition. We believe these types of ideas are very dangerous because your heart starts becoming attached to other than Allah, and you're invoking other than Allah. It should not be done, and without a doubt, our Prophet did not come that you say, Madad ya Ghawth and Madad ya Ali. This is not why he was sent. So if your relatives are doing this, you should advise them that this is not a part of our religion, and you should tell them that help is sought from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Next question is, how do you now define shirk? Because you used to define it in a particular manner. Now, what is the definition of shirk? The definition of shirk remains exactly the same, by the way, as it used to be. Nobody changes definitions. Definition of shirk is what Allah has defined it, and the Prophet has defined it. How has Allah defined it in the Quran? فَلَا تَجْعَلُوا لِلَّهِ أَنْدَادًا وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. And the Prophet said that when he was asked, what is the greatest sin? He said, أن تجعل لله ندا وهو خلقك. The same thing. You make for Allah, you create in your mind for Allah a partner. You assume that Allah has a nid. So, what is the definition of shirk? To assume that another entity shares any of the powers of Allah or any of the rights of Allah. This is shirk. If you believe another entity, any entity, besides there is only one ilah, la ilaha illallah. If you believe any other entity even has partial, nobody says it has to be equal, right? Allah says in the Quran that وَاتَّخَذُوا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. They took lesser than Allah gods, lesser than Allah. So to say that Allah is, like the Quraysh said, Allah is the supreme God, then there are many gods. These many gods, if Allah wanted to, He could stop them. But Allah has given them free license. And in their domains, they can do whatever they want. This is the essence of shirk. And anybody who believes another entity or a prophet or a wali or a saint has ultimate unrestricted power even in a domain, then this would be a type of shirk. Anybody who believes that they should worship or they're allowed to worship other than Allah. No one is worshipped other than Allah. If any being, if any person believes that another being should be worshipped, so the niyyah is to make worship to other than Allah, then without a doubt this is shirk akbar. This is the definition of shirk, to create in your mind, because it doesn't exist, there is no actual God besides Allah, to assume there is a partner. And a partner can be 1%. In a company, partners don't have to be equal. You can have 70%, 30% partner. You can have 90%, 10% partner. They're still partners in a company. So a partner is somebody who shares some aspect of what the other partners share. Doesn't have to be the same. So if anyone believes that any entity shares some of the powers of Allah, divine powers, shares some of the rights of Allah, the right to be worshipped, then this is a type of shirk. So this is aqidah questions. Now we get on to, obviously, marriage and divorce. La hawla wa quwwata illa billah. Guys, I'm literally quoting your questions back to you. So sorry if you find some of these problematic. These are your questions that I was asked. Allahu musta'an. A woman cheated on her husband with somebody. They ended up getting a divorce. Is she then allowed to perform a nikah with the person she cheated on after the iddah? La hawla wa quwwata illa billah. It's a very sad question, sad reality. Technically speaking, after the iddah, she may marry that person and the nikah is valid. So it is a sad situation and scenario. We ask Allah's refuge and we seek forgiveness for all of them if they truly repented to Allah. But technically, this marriage is valid. Which marriage? After the iddah. So the husband and wife that were married, an affair is discovered, they divorce. After the iddah, then the partner marries the affair partner, right? So the ex-wife or the ex-husband marries the affair partner after the iddah. This is technically jaiz and the marriage contract will be valid. And whether it should be done or not depends on the particular circumstances. Next question. We're having a problem in our community or in our culture now where secret marriages are becoming more and more common, where the witnesses and the couple are the only people that are informed and involved. What is the ruling on this? Does a marriage need to be made public? Listen to me carefully. I said this last month as well. Forget technicalities. No marriage will flourish if it is done in secret. This is not ethical. It is not noble. This is not going to flourish, and it's not going to lead to long-lasting happiness. If you wish to get married, be a man and get married properly. Go to the wali of the lady and don't have any secrets. You don't have to have a massive festival, but you should not tell people, hey, keep it secret. Okay, you don't have to do the largest 10,000, 5,000, 2,000 people, but to tell the witnesses, hey, don't tell anybody else. This is a secret marriage. This contradicts the entire spirit of the nikah, and it's going to end up in pain and disaster. The problem that people ask is that, is this technically halal? And this is where the issue comes. Not everything that is technically halal is something you should do, because the technical halal is the lowest level. But is it noble? Is it something that is going to bring happiness? The bare minimum halal, if you were to do the bare minimum halal in a marriage, any marriage, that marriage would not function. If a husband said, I will only give you the bare minimum of time and attention and love, and the wife said, I'll give you the bare minimum of my wifely duties, how will such a marriage flourish? That marriage will completely be gone. So, brothers, when you say, is it technically halal? Understand, this is not the spirit of our religion. Yes, you should know, is it technically halal? But then also go beyond this. Is it something the Sharia recommends? Is it noble? Technical halal is one thing, and yes, technical halal, as long as the conditions are met. The woman, if she has not been previously married, needs to have a wali. There are 2 witnesses, the mahar. This is the technical halal. And if this is done, perhaps there is no sin in the eyes of Allah, but there's also no dignity in such a marriage. There's no nobility, and it will cause harm to the individuals, especially to the woman. And this is why, sisters, I keep on saying, please understand, no matter what happens in history, no matter the trends of society, no matter what you call feminism, biology remains biology, and nothing will change in biology. Allah placed the wali for your protection, not to make life difficult for you. Allah placed the wali to protect you, not to make life difficult for you. And when you bring the wali, everything changes. When you bring the wali into the picture, automatically there is a change. So definitely, wali, 2 witnesses, mahar is the bare minimum, but secret marriages go against the spirit of Islam, and they will be problematic in the long run. Even if it's not sinful, you might not go to Jahannam, but this is not rewarding. You see the point here, right? And the least that can be said, it is makruh and strongly discouraged, and it should not become the norm. So, brothers and sisters, I say very clearly that you should not just be asking, is it technically halal? You should be looking at the overall picture, and I say that this should not become the norm. It's very sad to find that this is happening. Question about marriage here. Is civil divorce in the American courts counting as the Sharia divorce or not? This is a bit more nuanced here. If the husband initiates a civil divorce and signs the paper and speaks to the judge and says, I'm divorcing my wife, right? Effectively, this is an Islamic divorce. Because he doesn't have to be in front of a judge. If he says, I'm divorcing my wife, and he signs the paper and my wife is divorced, doesn't matter whether you're in front of a non-Muslim judge or a Muslim judge or in the privacy of your home. When you say, I am divorcing, and you sign and whatnot, this is talaq. So whether it's civil or not, then makes no difference. It is an Islamic talaq. It has taken place. The problem comes the opposite, when the woman files for divorce. This is where there's some issues and controversy in this regard. And what the Fiqh Council of North America is saying is that if a woman files for divorce for legitimate reasons, abuse, financial abandonment, if a woman files divorce for legitimate reasons, and she cannot assess those independent reasons without a trained faqih involved, some alim and shaykh that has studied Islamic law, he should look at this case between the husband and wife. And he should see, is this a legitimate case? Is there physical abuse? Is there, emotional? Is there financial type of abuse, abandonment? In this case, the husband says, I'm not going to divorce her. I'm not, and he's being zalim. He's clearly being zalim. What do you expect her to do? What is her alternative? So in this case, we say, if the husband is being unjust, then she files for civil divorce with the validation of a neutral, independent, trained faqih, and says, yes, this is a legitimate case. She should be given her freedom because she's being mistreated. In this case, it will count as a khula because she initiated it, and she will be then considered divorced after the iddah. So that will be a divorce because essentially there is no alternative for her. Because if you don't open this door, what is the alternative? She will remain in limbo. What is the alternative? So we have said that with the permission of, not the permission, with the validation of a neutral faqih, and there's legitimate abuse, then it will count as a divorce. Otherwise, it is not technically a divorce, because the divorce is in the hands of the husband, as the Quran is very clear in this regard. So now we move on to a little bit of economics here. See, I'm doing this quickly, inshallah, right? Hope it's beneficial, inshallah. Otherwise, you spend 10, 20 minutes on one question. You guys gave the fatwa about Bitcoin. How about Ethereum? The fatwa was Bitcoin and similar coins. So Ethereum is also permissible. So any coin that has gained traction and legitimacy and is considered to be a legitimate means of exchange, the same ruling will apply. And so the fatwa you read about Bitcoin, it also applies to Ethereum and other mainstream coins, Cardano, Solana, all of these mainstream ones that we're familiar with. The ones that, the fads that come and go, the ones that are very, very, dodgy, pun intended if you know your Doge coins, but the ones that are dodgy, those coins, definitely you should be very, very skeptical, and the ruling would be more on the prohibition than the jawaz, wallahu a'lam. Question, I am in debt, can I go for Umrah? Response, if it is an immediate debt that your debtor wants to be repaid, then the obligation to repay the debt is more than the obligation for Umrah. But if it is a long-term debt and you are allowed to pay over 5, 10, 20 years, then you may go for Umrah, no problem, wallahu a'lam. Question, what is your opinion about Islamic mortgage companies in the USA? Do they really follow Islamic laws? This has been asked every single time, and I've given the same answer. The Islamic mortgage companies are not all the same. Some of them are better than others. And look at who their Sharia advisors are. Nobody says that Islamic mortgage companies are 100% clean and pure. They have to work their way around the system. The question is it better than the alternative? And most fuqaha say, yes, it is better. And one group says that, no, it's really almost the same, so you might as well use the default, which is the mortgage from the bank. So you have all of these fatwa out there, and I don't want to increase your confusion. You have to ask yourself, who do you trust? And then go to them and follow their fatwa, no problem. Because some people say that Islamic mortgages are more pure and better than the alternative. And others say they're almost the same. In fact, they are the same. So there's no point going through the Islamic when you have to pay more. And this is a valid difference of opinion. Amjad has one fatwa, the Fiqh Council has another fatwa. So whichever one you do, inshallah ta'ala, you will find good over here. Okay, question here. Now this is a very difficult one, subhanAllah. I think one of our youth must have asked this. In the future, we will have AI-powered female robots. Can this be considered milk yamin? I think this young man has too much time on his hands, and let him engage more in ibadah and dhikr, inshallah. And these are questions I hope we don't have to answer too soon, but if we do, then we will sit down as a Fiqh Council and discuss a very difficult and sensitive topic. I actually added, somebody sent this, and so I'm literally quoting, and I will say when that happens, we will have to answer this question. Otherwise, Allah musta'an. I don't even want to go there. Allah musta'an. Question, we have a number of kids. We don't want to have any more kids. Is it sinful for us to now start using protection to not have any children? Not at all. If you choose to not have children for your personal reasons, as long as it's not because, oh, we cannot afford children, because Allah is the Razzaq. As long as that is not the reason. You say, emotionally, I'm drained out. Time-wise, I don't have the time for anymore. This is legitimate. You may do so, but realize your doing will not change Allah's qadar. And if Allah has willed you will have a kid, you will have a kid. And realize that you do not know the future, but is it jaiz? Yes, it is jaiz. You may use any type of birth control and not have any children for any reason that is not financial. Financial, it is not allowed, because when you say, I cannot afford, now you're challenging Allah's qadar. Allah Azza wa Jal is the Razzaq. Okay, question here. we have an extended family, we're living together. Is it permissible to make an agreement with all of the mothers in the family to nurse each other's children? There's multiple brothers and wives and whatnot, and so we want the children to be nursed together for the sake of creating mahram between these children. We want to do it intentionally. We want to make them mahram between these children and their female aunts, so that now there's not going to be any issue when they're older. Is this something that is permissible to do or not? So it is permissible, but you think it through, because you are restricting, what Allah might have, because this is now 2 babies here. They might grow up to fall in love and get married, right? You are making them milk brother and sister. You understand, foster. You understand what I'm talking about, the foster thing. You are making them brother and sister. You're effectively making it haram to do so. So is it permissible? It is permissible. Should you do it? You need to think about this and really have a discussion. I don't know, is this wise to do? And I would generally say I'm not leaning towards this. I don't see the point. Just because you don't want to wear a headscarf every time you walk into that particular part of the house, I think, Allahu Alam, I don't see this to be the overriding need. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Okay? Question here. If hadith cannot be proven by the Western method, does that bring doubt into the hadith for us as Muslims? No, not at all. Remember when the Prophet went on Isra and Mi'raj, and they came to the Prophet and they said, you are saying the Prophet went to Isra to Jerusalem in one night. What did Abu Bakr as-Siddiq say? Did he start saying, oh, don't you know Einstein's theory of relativity and quantum physics, and what did Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu say? He said it, so it's true. So Muslims understand that as believers, when you're outside of Islam, they don't believe the Quran is from Allah. Do you think they're going to believe the Sunnah from the Prophet? It's understood they have a different methodology of doing things. So their understanding of science and ilm is different than our understanding, and our religion is not based upon their extrapolation. We should have confidence in our system and not have to worry about their interpretation of how the hadith have been preserved. For us, we believe, listen to this, the Quran needs the Sunnah, and the Sunnah is a part of Islam. We all agree to this, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised to protect His religion, correct? And there is no religion without, if Allah had willed, He would have sent the Quran to a book, to a mountain and left it there. But He didn't. He sent with the Quran, who else did He send? A Prophet ﷺ. Without the persona of the Prophet ﷺ, there is no religion. So, if Allah Azza wa Jal requires us to follow the Sunnah, this automatically means what? The Sunnah must be preserved, or else there is no Islam. Now, we as believers have our mechanism of doing that, and we should accept it, no problem. Don't be surprised, those outside of our tradition, don't be surprised when they have their own mechanisms and they have their ways. They say this, they're not going to accept it. I'll give you one anecdote, one example. And again, this is a technical topic. Whoever's interested, go study and listen to both sides. But as practicing Muslims, you don't have to worry about the other side unless you're academically interested. Let me give you an example. When I was first taught the Western system 22 years ago. So there's something called the common link. There's something called the source. So what happens is you find 5, 10, 15 narrations. They typically converge on one person, maybe a tabi'i or a taba tabi'i, and then that person narrates from one person back to the Sahaba, back to the Prophet. So in one class, I remember the first time we did this, we had a whole analysis. This is the Western method, not the Eastern method, right? Not the Islamic method. We had analysis. It all converged on, I want to say Imam Malik or maybe Sufyan al-Thawri, I forgot. It's been 21 years. Maybe let's say Imam Malik. Let's just say it converged on Imam Malik. So all 5, 6 change, they're going to Imam Malik. Then Imam Malik narrates from Nafi'. Nafi' narrates from Ibn Umar. Ibn Umar narrates from the Prophet. Okay? So the professor in class, he was saying, oh, so we see the source of the hadith, Malik, the origin of the hadith, the common link, Malik. And I'm just still fresh out of Medina, Kulliyat al-Hadith, graduate of hadith. And I asked a very naive question because I didn't understand what he's saying. So I raised my hand and said, are you suggesting that Malik ibn Anas just fabricated the tradition? Because you're saying the source, the origin, because from his mind, all of the narrations converge on this person, Imam Malik, right? So we don't find it before Imam Malik. So if it converges on Malik, and Malik says, Nafi' ibn Umar, the Prophet, so he's saying the origin, the source. I said, are you saying Imam Malik fabricated? And he said, well, it is a possibility, yes. Like in his mind, he has no problem thinking that Imam Malik fabricated the hadith. Now, this type of presumption can only come from somebody who doesn't understand what Iman does to a person. Doesn't understand Imam Malik cannot possibly, it's just impossible. Now, forget Imam Malik, the Sahaba. I mean, what do we believe about the Sahaba? That they will never lie about the Prophet. Now, this is a belief we have, correct? What do you expect somebody who doesn't believe in the Sahaba? What do you expect them? So, understand that the science of hadith has certain presumptions that are very logical and reasonable for believers, 100%. But when you don't have Iman, then those presumptions from your paradigm are not going to add up. So understand this point. And in the end of the day, we as Muslims don't need validation from external people. If you're interested, study both sides. A few people, unfortunately yours truly is one of them, a few people has to live in both worlds. I do go in that world. I also teach in this world. So understand, I have to navigate both worlds. And so when I'm in that world, I understand their presumptions. I have to navigate with their presumptions. And when I'm in this world, which is the real world, which is the world of Allah and His Messenger, then obviously hadith is a part of Islam. There is no Islam without Sunnah. There's no question about this, right? So understand this point. So no, we don't care what their verdicts are. We have our verdicts for faith-based. But whoever wants to contribute in that world, whoever wants to write papers in that world, present papers in that world, then obviously you have to follow that paradigm, and that's understandable. Most people don't have to do that. Unfortunately, for me, I have to. So understand when I say this, that I'm speaking from their paradigm, that they don't have the necessary tools that we have. We have a different set of tools. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Question here, wallahi, this is a very difficult question. I don't know, I have longer questions here. A sister says, is there any way to make logical sense of the issue of milk yameen? Because a lot of our sisters are struggling with this concept. This is a very difficult question. And a lot of our youth really are struggling with this concept. I have given a longer 35-minute lecture, I think it is, when I was doing the Seerah series. We kept on talking about milk yameen, because it's a part of the tradition, right? And eventually I had to just pause the Seerah series. And during the Seerah series, they say, okay guys, we're going to take a bit of a break here to explain this, contextualize it. In the end of the day, honestly, we just have to hear and obey. Sami'na wa ata'na. Allah says in the Quran, and listen to this, it is possible you dislike something and it is good for you. And it is possible you like something, it is bad for you. Allah says in the Quran, qital, fighting has been prescribed for you. You don't want to do it. Even the Sahaba were struggling with certain things. And Allah says sometimes things are there, you might not understand them, they are there. So this is something that existed in the past. And one of the beautiful aspects, and you can go listen to that lecture, I forgot what it's called, I think it's Explaining Milk Yameen in Islam, something like that. You can see a standard title, Yasir Qadhi Explaining Milk Yameen in Islam. You'll find what I said over there. So you need some more time to explain. But there is one thing that needs to be said here, and that is, one of the powerful realities of this entire institution is that the Sharia made it something that is not necessary for Islam. When it existed, there are guidelines. And when it doesn't exist, nothing is missing from the Sharia. And that's why we don't have this institution anymore, and the Sharia is perfect and complete. In other words, it is as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this a piece. When it's there, there are rules. When it's not there, everything is perfect and fine. And 150 years ago, the entire ummah basically also agreed. This is the Ottoman Empire's decree in 1850, don't quote me, 7 or something, 1851, the firman that came out, and they banned this institution. And it took a few decades across the world. The entirety of the ummah followed suit. And that is why this institution is no longer practiced anywhere in the world. And no alim is calling for it back. So we thank Allah that the way that the Sharia has made this institution, when it was there, the Sharia came and gave the most humane guidelines imaginable. And when it's no longer there, then the Sharia is fully perfect and complete, and no part is missing, even though this entire institution is missing. And there are verses in the Quran about it, but every time it is something that is optional. Free this, do this, and if the multiple options, one of them is this. So we thank Allah that this is the perfection. But in the end of the day, yes, this is something you will have to think about, make istikhara, not pray, pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to find comfort in your heart. And if you have any questions, come to me, come to others more in this regard, and listen to my lectures longer in this regard. Final 2-3 questions, inshallah, then we'll call it a day. Brother is saying that, can you give some guidelines for Muslim professionals working in corporate America where it is almost impossible to live a purely ethical life and there will be some conflict with Islamic values? And then he says, I don't know why this was there, but he says this, especially in light of the viral clip about the CEO's affair with his employee. Okay, so I don't know what has that got to do with the first part of the question, but that's what the question is. I thought, okay, khair. Because I thought it was a very nice question, the first part, then they bring the other, was like, what does that got to do? But I think we can make an easy connection, and that is, there's a reason why the Sharia came with hijab and lowering of the gaze and not flirting and a soft segregation. There's a reason for this. And we see that reason over and over and over again. And it is very interesting that Uber just announced the option for women to request women drivers. This is Sharia, alhamdulillah, right? They're saying, no Sharia, no Sharia. And as I said, you can say whatever you want, biology doesn't change. Biology does not change. Go 3-4 years ago with the Me Too movement. And I was a professor at that time. The decree came from the department, from the dean, that from now on, there shall be no closed door meetings with a student of the opposite gender. I said, alhamdulillah, but I was already doing that anyway. Okay, we have to keep the door open, no khalwa. I said, you know what, I didn't need your decree. The Prophet already told me about this khalwa, don't worry, right? So Sharia is coming to them. They're trying to run away from it, but the reality is you cannot. There's reasons why these mechanisms are in place. Bottom line, to answer this question, I will say that فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Inevitably, you are in an environment in which other people are not following Islam. But understand, so too were the Sahaba, so too was the Prophet in Mecca. You're not the first person. There was fahisha in Mecca. Sharab was being sold. Idols were in front of the Kaaba. Nudity existed in Mecca. You all know how they used to do tawaf. So what are you going to do? Lower your gaze. Don't ever be flirtatious. You be dignified in your interactions and dealings. And that's all you can do. You're not obliged to do anything more than this. So the Sharia is not impossible to live. You apply the Sharia in your daily life. And I have given many more answers about more specific issues about events that take place, about parties that take place, about festivals inside the workplace, about other types. I have given more specific fatwas in this regard. But overall, take this as the rule. Fear Allah as much as you can. Do as much as is perfection as possible. And what you really cannot do, which is a gray area, you can never do clear-cut haram. Never drink alcohol because it's socially unacceptable. No. But sometimes you have to attend a meeting with the vice president and everybody's there and there's sharab somewhere in the room. It's not good for you to have sharab in the room or even on the table. Wallahi, it's not good. But if that's something that the meeting is there for business and you are your department, you're presenting what you need to do, Allah knows you're not doing this for entertainment. Allah knows you're not doing this for, no, it is a part of, there is no alternative in this regard. And I have given a longer explanation in this regard. So differentiate between socializing and, things just for the sake of pleasure versus what is needed to do. And what you need to do, may Allah forgive you as long as it's not clear-cut haram. Final question we'll do today, inshallah. And that is, somebody has done great harm upon me and I'm in pain because of this. Is it allowed to give Allah's la'na upon that person? The response, anybody that has done clear-cut dhulm, you may make dua proportional to the dhulm that has been done to you. So if somebody has ruined your life, if a tyrannical party has, done something, jailed or imprisoned, whatnot, you have every right to turn to Allah and invoke Allah to the proportional level that dhulm has been done on you. And what is happening in Gaza is one example of that. We have every right to give la'na on those people that are doing that. However, if a person has done a dhulm that is not as severe as other examples, and there's also good in that person, then you need to be careful that your dua is proportional. Because you cannot Ask Allah to do more than what the dhulm they have done unto you, or else you're doing dhulm in your dua. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if somebody does a harm unto you, you may do the same harm, but do not go وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا, but don't go more than this. Do not go more than this. So you have to, in fair conscience, and if you're in doubt, err on the side of caution. Or if you really want to, ask a neutral party. Say, hey, this is what happened. How much dua can I make against the person? Because you have to be careful, because you cannot go more than what the person has done. And if you do innocently, perhaps you're forgiven. But if you do maliciously, Allah is not going to accept that dua. And you might even lose the impact of your dua, because you're going more than what the person has done. So be careful in this regard. Your dua is most powerful when you use it effectively. And when dhulm has been done and you make the dua of the madhloom properly, your dua will be answered. However, if there is good in that person and there's some redeeming qualities, then the option of forgiving is there, and the option of mending is there, and the option of being the better of the two is there. And if you take that option, Allah will give you more than your dua against him would have gotten you. You understand? If you make dua against him, oh Allah, do this to him and do that to him. Okay, you've ruined his life and maybe he deserved it, but you will then get nothing on the day of judgment because you've gotten rid of it, right? If, and as an option, Allah has allowed it, if you rise up and say, I will forgive, and I want Allah to give me more for the forgiveness. I'm not saying it is obligatory, it's not obligatory. I'm not even saying it is always better. Wallahi, in Gaza, we can't even expect them to do this. Even we should not do this. Even if they were to ask forgiveness, they will not, they in the day of judgment. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get my point here. After what they have done, they say, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. So you look at the crimes that have been done, and then you are proportional in this regard. So be careful in this regard. And with this, inshallah ta'ala, we conclude our Q&A. Wa jazakumullah khair. We'll come back, inshallah, for another one.
فيا ذلي ويا خجلي إذا ما قال لي ربي أما استحييته تعصيني ولا تخشى من العتب وتخفي الذنب عن خلقي وتأبى في الهوى قربي فتب مما جنيت عسى تعود إلى رضا